All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian McLogan, and this is Office Hours day number 6. It's actually the first day that we unveiled our online learning for our students in my district, and it was interesting to say the least. I will kind of start off with going over. It was very, very fun and exciting actually to get a little bit back of like seeing students and being able to interact with them. And I think a lot of them were also just excited to, they don't communicate with everybody that's in their class. Like outside of class, like you have like those friends that you talk to and like you're friendly with, but maybe like outside of class, you don't hang out with them or talk to them. So it's kind of nice, like getting into the chat room and just be able to communicate people, that you sit next to and everything else. And so we had a good chat, and I basically just kind of did some Q&A for them, just kind of gave them a little idea of how I was going to be operating this online learning, and also kind of through their feedback, I kind of just realized, some things that maybe initially I was thinking I was going to do, and then I kind of made some changes from there. So oh, I forgot to pull out my chat, so let me pull that out real quick. But I do see you, James, James, I did post actually, I saw your comment and I posted that back on the chat. If you want to just kind of maybe let me know in the chat if you wanted me to go and grab that question. I was just looking into, I just saw that chat, I just saw that question. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at that, and maybe let me know in this chat, I'll be more than happy to maybe respond to that here on the live stream. But always, I also see Big John, Haley, thank you, and Addie. Thank you guys for joining in the live stream today. So a couple things that were going on with the today's kind of open Q&A is, yeah, it just really kind of gave me like some of that reflection, like, oh my, like we're actually back to teaching, and so we finished off our quarter 3 grades, or at least our quarter 3 lessons before spring break. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of spending these next 2 weeks really kind of getting my students to get their grades kind of wrapped up, and then really get prepared for our final quarter. And at least for the pre-calculus, we're going to be covering conic sections and the limit, and then doing a little exponential and logarithmic. But the other thing that was really kind of amazing to me was just the fact of like I was just amazed by, or just like really kind of overwhelmed on what some of these teachers, because I've had a lot of teachers that also like message me and like thinking like it was overwhelming for me today. And I've been doing online instruction, I've been recording myself for a very, very long time. My students already currently like know exactly where to go on my website and watch my videos and everything like that. Even though I still instruct inside the classroom, a lot of my components of my class is online. And even for me, it was very stressful. And it was a lot to kind of take in, this transfer of like not going into the classroom and trying to teach the students, or at least being able to, communicate with them. So, one of the things I was talking to my wife, it was like, I can't even imagine some of these, I know a lot of, I can't imagine, I know exactly what they're going through because I did that as well. Not only trying to figure out the technology, but also trying to figure out the, how you're going through your lessons and everything like that. It's just a lot. So if there are any kind of teachers out there, please feel free always to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to kind of be a resource for you. And also I do have some of my videos I am trying to package together. So therefore something that for those of you guys that are in pre-calculus, maybe this might be something that would help you out, really kind of taking some of my videos as well as my slides and making that available for you guys. So therefore you can try to catch up or at least stay with it, because I can only imagine trying to like create your notes. I mean, that's all I've been doing this year is creating my notes, recording my notes, so for my students. But if you haven't done that before, I can only imagine how much, you realize how much work, it is. And that's why I was joking with my students. It's like I go home and teach, and then I go to school and teach, and then I come home and all I'm doing is like creating more lessons and recording and kind of stuff like that. So yes, James, that is the question. If you wanted me just to explain, because I think you said like the transformations of 3, you wanted me to kind of talk about the pi halves. I'm not sure why there is that. Oh, something as far as like explain on that pi halves. If you just want to like, I think I understand your question. And maybe I think you wanted to see where you get that question. I can maybe pull it up, but maybe if you just want to add in a little bit more for that, that'd be great. And Royal Cal, thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. Not needed for getting your questions answered, but if you do have a question you want to add to that super chat, I'll be more than happy to be able to help you out on that. Translate to known pi numbers. Yeah, I wasn't sure for on that. So, all right, let me go ahead. And Brian, the quarantine is going good. Yes, it is. I love the Mick Logan. I gotta pull that. All right, so let me kind of get into the title because obviously I wasn't trying to draw any of you guys in as far as the online learning. From a teacher perspective, Masta says, what is your thoughts on online learning? I love online learning. Obviously, I think this is one thing that a benefit that we're going to come out of from this instruction is that the benefits of online learning, I think some of the benefits of online learning is one, it's allowing students to kind of learn at their pace. Students aren't going to feel that pressure of like, you have to learn this time. Like if it's instructional videos, they will have the opportunity to watch it and let it retain a little bit more. I think also the fact of time, which even like a lot of parents are realizing or like companies are realizing, like just focus, forcing students to sit in a class. If maybe there's like nothing I need to teach for that day or that week, or we need to take a break, like why, students are just forced because they're at school, you're forced to have to be in the class, and you have to be learning something that day. Well, we all know that's not always the reality. And, we've all been through those classes where you have like busy work where it's like, well, I don't really have something to teach. So we're just going to randomly practice these problems. And I know I do have some of those worksheets as well, but I feel, or at least I try to tell myself that I am strategic on those sheets like that, which I am. I try to make sure we have some kind of basic skills that I want my students to be able to practice on. But I think my point is, when you're at school, not every class are we truly maximizing those classes. So I think online learning plays a very, very important role on that. But obviously, I think that social interaction. I mean, I could just feel those I can just feel the interaction. Students are getting on. Like it just took over me. I was like, it was excited. I could see students were excited just to kind of be back in that social interaction. And I don't think there's anything that can really replace a true classroom. And a teacher is doing a lesson, a good lesson that is going to providing value and knowledge to the students. So I think that's something that's going to continue. I really just kind of see this online learning though is really kind of making a push into supporting more teachers. And then again, like also, if it's also allowing students to be able to take more classes, that maybe are not offered at their school, and providing just a little bit more of a variety. So, kind of getting onto that as far as my thoughts on, online grading, it's kind of interesting because I'm trying to think about this. I brought up this question really, not really because I have a couple of thoughts, but it's really also kind of seeing what some of you guys are doing in your classes or what some of your teachers are doing. And then also for some of you teachers, your kind of thoughts, because it is something that is different, right? So, typically in my class, my students would turn in their homework as a completion grade. I would spot check it basically. And if I obviously saw something that was like incorrect or just like fake brought up. Hi, Elena, I see you. Thank you very much for joining. And Laura, love you very much. Thanks so much, Tyler. That was not very nice, Tyler. You better watch out. Laura will put you in timeout. She's a moderator. Anyways, and then sure enough, she did put you in timeout. So, yeah, I'll get to some questions on polynomials algebra in a second, for sure. But yeah, so one of my, kind of things is like, how are we going to deal with like these, grades and like, what is the value of a grade? And, especially in this online learning environment. So in my classes, I would give students homework, completion grade, spot check it. And then they had tests and quizzes. So, that was the least we were able to monitor. I mean, I would, try to monitor, cheating at least as much as we could. But, by students doing their homework, even though I have the answers provided for them, you could kind of tell when students were doing their work, when they were not doing their work. And I think just by doing the work, that would, help prepare them for the upcoming quizzes or tests. And of course, if they did all of their homework and then they failed the test or quiz, you could obviously see that there's a disconnect there. But as far as with this online learning, it's putting a lot of responsibility now on the student to really do their work. So I think there's some pros to that. And obviously there's some cons of that. So the pros obviously is I think that's giving students a lot more responsibility and taking some ownership for their learning. So we're going to be able to whereas a lot of times I sometimes felt like I had to basically just telling my students how to do stuff, like how to pass the class, like come on, you got to do this work, and like I always had to show them what to do. Whereas now if they can if they don't they are responsible for learning the information. Now, as of right now, I have I'm using some. I am just going to still allow them to turn in the homework with completion grades. I give them the answers anyways. They just really need to kind of show their work or show me that they're putting in the effort. I think that's always something that's beneficial for the students. Giving them always the benefit of the doubt that they're doing that work. And then I decided to, as far as the quizzes, a lot of my quizzes are free responses, or majority of them are free responses. And I just don't see a great way of really being able to replicate that, online. I mean, obviously, as students can do their work, they can send it to me. I can grade it that way. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else is doing anything different in their classes with that, but I have just decided that I'm going to do the completion grades for the homework. I'm going to record myself doing the quizzes, which I already do anyways, but I usually after the students have done that. And then I'm going to give them a multiple choice test. So typically their test is part free response, part multiple choice. And for the sake of technology, we're just going to convert it to a multiple choice. And the program that I'm using, GoFormative, will allow me at least to restrict, when students are taking that test. So, and then also, some of those things we'll try to do into the measures. And then also students will need to take their final exam. Now, typically we always did a district given final exam, and I'm not sure what our policy is going to be for this one. So I did see Brian posted if our final exam is going to be online. I figure it is. I mean, the class that I teach is a semester course, so therefore we are going to have to we're going to need to enter in a semester exam. But right now we're a little bit far away. We still have so many unknowns at this point. So I'm just going to kind of hold off on that. All right, let's get into translates to non-pi numbers. Yeah, I saw that James things. All right. Oh, so I got to see a lot of you guys join on. Well, thank you so much, Beatrice, Eric, Slime, Damika. Thank you so much. There's a lot of factoring. Probably C3 is a factor. Bradley. Kevin, can I come to your house? Maybe. What if your students don't have internet? Obese ass, which is a very good question, and I think that's one of the restrictions why students have, why we haven't really fully embraced online learning. And I can just kind of tell you, at least from with my students, is that we have actually. Let me put that back over here. So all my students, it's been a requirement on my class that you had to be able to have access to my website. And so therefore all my students have access to internet, even if it is somewhere that they don't have to like print out anything, but they can access the internet on their phone or on their computer and be able to get it that way. Now, obviously, if that was something that they ended up not having access to internet, I told students from the beginning of the year, I'm never going to tell you that you cannot be successful in this class because you don't have internet. Just always come and see me, and I will do, print out copies for you, do whatever I need to do. And that ended up not being the case. I guess I'm very fortunate. I know that there are many other districts and classes where that is definitely not the case. So that has just been an obstacle I've not really had to deal with. I did expect it this year, since I was kind of expecting students to all have access to the internet. And everybody was at least able to access the internet one way or another to, see the homework and everything else for my classes. So, but I do definitely bring up a concern, and I think that's a really good question. I know that there's been I know for some of our other classes, they were printing out, a lot of work before or during like spring break. So therefore they could pass out the packets to the students just so they kind of knew what they needed to do. But as far as like getting help and all that kind of stuff, yeah, it's tricky, it really is. And yes, there are internet providers that are, accessing definitely some internet. The only tricky thing too is like, people got to know how to take advantage of that. And I know also I've heard some things where even the internet providers were just overwhelmed by so many people trying to get new service that the time it was going to take to get installation was still like weeks and weeks ahead. So, I mean, it's one of those, kind of tough situations. I think for, everybody as we're just trying to like deal with everything the best we can. But before I get into some of the math, because I did want to cover some of your guys' math topics, I did want to kind of let you guys know that I think last week I made the ambitious note that I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just continue going live. There's no way I can go live every day this week. That was crazy talk. So now that we kind of started this week, I don't even know why I was really not thinking about this, but I already went live three times today with my classes. I'm going to go live 3 times tomorrow. I'm going to go live 3 times on Wednesday and Thursday. So for every class I'm going live, I'm kind of doing like an open Q&A, kind of like what I'm doing with you guys right now. Where I'm just kind of answering questions from my students, and obviously once we start getting more into instruction, there's going to be more and more questions and it's going to get me more and more in depth. So I just realized that is not only just a lot of work for myself, because obviously I still have content I need to start continue to be creating, but also my computer is taking a lot of load on that. And Mario's not too dear. Well, thank you very much, Mario, for joining on the live stream. And Mario also has an amazing math channel for those of you also that are looking for some additional tutorials in mathematics. He covers multiple topics. So thank you very much, Mario. I really do appreciate it. And it is always a great pleasure to see you on the channel, and also a lot of the videos he's cranking out, a lot of great math content. So I would definitely go ahead and check out his channel, because I know, guys, we're all in this together. We're trying to, provide this instruction, but again, there's so many resources out there. And, now that some of you students, you might not have been used to looking for certain examples, or, I might teach it one way, your teacher might teach it another way online. But Mario, and myself, we've been teaching, mathematics online for a very, very long time. So there's a lot of content that's out there. I know I have a ton of videos that don't have any views. People just haven't found them, or they're just, made up thing. So, definitely keep on, looking out there. There's a lot of great content out there to help you guys with your problems. So make sure you guys are always, spending that time, working with your teachers, whatever you need, doing the work. But then again, don't get frustrated. There is a lot of content that teachers like myself and Mario and many, many others that have been putting out there. And, really just kind of takes that, finding the ones that, explain it the way that you understand, and then continuing, watching and staying up to date. All right, so let's get into a little bit of math. So what I decided to do anyways, I got off point. So what I decided to do is I am going to still do a bonus office hours, but I'm just going to do an office hours on Wednesday. So therefore, as long as we're doing this online education kind of thing, I think because I go live with my students during the day, that's a private live stream, but we will, what I will be doing is doing a open kind of like office hours with you guys. It's more going to be kind of tied toward me talking about some things and like answering some of your guys' questions. And then if we have time at the end, I will go ahead and answer some of your math questions. However, I know, guys, I'm not going to get to your answer questions. Like, there's a lot of math questions out here, right? So please, if you have not already gone to Discord, that is where I want to be taking a lot of my questions. So on Sunday and Sunday night, I will still be doing my open Q&A, where I'll just be taking questions from the Discord. But I really want to start collecting the questions from the open Q&A chat on my Discord server. So please make sure, guys, I think I put it in the description for you guys to go ahead and check that out. If you're not already on Discord, it's very, very easy. It took me a little bit to kind of get used to it, but I really feel like that is the absolute best way for me to be able to answer your questions. And again, if I can't answer your questions, other people can answer your questions. And that was very, very difficult when you guys are submitting them on the community post, or if you guys are, trying to private message me or do anything else. Like it was just too much, and it was very difficult to have those kind of interactions. So that's why I kind of created the Discord for you guys to post your questions and as well as to help each other out. And then what I'll do is I will, before office hours or before open Q&A, I will just kind of take some of those questions that I can do and answer them for you guys. All right. So, Beatrice, you can ask about growth and decay. Obviously, there's a lot of hot topics going on right now with exponential growth and decay. But I'm not going to be able to do many questions for tonight. I will definitely go over some of the just a couple quick questions, guys, because for the live stream, like I said, this is my 4th live stream today, which is like crazy. Like, why am I going live 4 times in one day? Talk about like online learning to like the extreme. I kind of feel like I'm tutoring and stuff. So, all right. But there is definitely, again, some more quadratics that I'm seeing. So, oh, geez, nobody wants to do that. So let's go and look at this one. 2x squared plus 3x plus 3 equals 0. And I believe that is going to be a solving problem. And then let's see what other ones. I'm not taking any additional questions, guys, because I'll go ahead and knock these out if I can. But I'll just kind of see whichever ones I can kind of do just rather quickly. Please be mindful that he's only one person. Yes, thank you very much. I have a long word problem, and I do not want to go over long word problems. But please feel free to go ahead and add a features into Discord. And then, if I have a little time, we'll be able to review it, or maybe somebody else be able to help you out with that. Could you record some complex equations? I just need a little bit more specificity. So again, the nice about the Discord is obviously you guys can like post your pictures, of whatever you're working on. But again, try to keep things simple, guys. I mean, if I am going to be able to provide an answer, it needs to be something like exactly this or in those questions. Obviously, I know people are like, hey, do 1 through 5. And I'm like, I don't have time to do 1 through 5 or to look through 1 through 5, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, feel free to always do it. Just, maybe somebody might be able to help you out for each and every one of those problems. But the more direct and specific you can be, the more likely and I think the more value that I or anyone else can go ahead and provide for you. Let's see here. There was another couple of quadratics that I wanted to get into. No, I don't know. Yeah, this is a good question. A lot of factoring ones. So is c minus 3 a factor of c squared, c squared minus 6c minus 15. And then there was another one that you had. Well, I'll do, yeah, that one. That one you do, it's a little bit different process, but we can kind of go over that. That's actually not, I like that kind of build up. Let's do that again. So same idea is x minus 2, a factor of 4x cubed minus 8x squared plus 11x minus 7. All right, so I'm going to kind of cover those two. I think those are at that. Show all the asymptotes, my precautions online, not my person ignore my emails. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but it was just, it just kind of seemed like that's like a growing theme of like, here's now going to be like the new issues, like my professor's not answering my emails or I'm not getting responses. It just kind of seemed like, hey, here's the sign of the times, like now the new things, rather than, what you would think about what's going on inside the class. Now there's all these new issues with being learning and your teacher, professors, now outside the class. All right, so I think those are some of the math questions I had. Oh yeah, and then I have, actually I'm going to go James, I know I had your post, so let me go and see if I can go ahead and find that for you real quick. And again, guys, I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. That's another one of those. My post, community tab. Richard, I think you asked about, I'm not sure if you asked about the Descartes rule of signs before, but I'll go ahead and add a Descartes rule of signs to that polynomial, just to kind of like brush up on it real quick. And then let me see, I think that was it. Let me check in for that. No, not that. All right. Newest first. So we have, it's not showing up. Let me see, James, where was that? I know you sent it in that original. He had a question that was very, very interesting one, and it was dealing with my pi, and I love that thing. I'm not getting that. I'm sorry, James. I'm not sure. Yeah, I see your question as far as, well, let me, actually, I can probably work backwards from that because I remember, so I have the 4. Let me work backwards from this. So it's 4.5 sine of pi halves minus 3 pi halves. Where's the x? All right, I'm gonna have to enter it here. So I'll just end this with that. I'm not sure where your variable is or where your variable is supposed to. So if you want to maybe chat into me, that's something you wrote into there. And if you're still on this live stream, just go ahead and let me know where that is at. And then yeah. All right, so let's go and do that. I got 2 minutes to answer all these questions, which is not my deal. But anyways, I might be able to just answer for you on that later. And then anyways, guys, I will be going live. I will plan on going live on Wednesday. So if you do have any of these questions, feel free, if I don't get to them, which I'm not going to, anything else that's added into the chat, or if you did something into the chat and I overlooked it, I didn't see it, then just please add it to the chat, and then I can add it to our next live stream on Wednesday. So, but I do want to kind of keep these office hours a little bit shorter. So I'll just kind of cover these, rather quickly. For the first one, I can automatically tell this is not going to be factorable, just because I know that any quadratic can be broken down into a product of 2 factors, 2x and x, and the last 2 numbers are going to be 3 and 1. It doesn't matter if I put a 3 here or a 1 here or 3 here and a 1 there. It's never going to give me that middle term of 3x. So in this case, I'm going to decide just to use the quadratic formula, and this is something I did in my open Q&A last class period. So that's opposite of b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And again, that is when you have a quadratic in standard form. So in this case, all I'm simply going to do is take the opposite of b, so that's going to be a negative 3, plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times a times c. And that's going to be all over 2 times a. And I'll slow down because I felt like I was getting anxious to start talking really fast. Which, it was kind of funny. I was doing like some, looking. I remember like people always talk about, yeah, you kind of like talk really fast, in your videos. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Sometimes I get excited and I'll talk very fast. But I was watching some other math videos, and yeah, I talk really fast. I do apologize, guys. Sometimes I just get like excited or anxious, and I'll just like blah, 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 blah. And I realized, obviously, a lot of people, they do a really, really good job of just staying calm and, explaining things slowly. So I do apologize for that, guys. Sometimes I don't always catch myself. All right, so I have negative 3 plus or minus. Let's see, this is going to be 9. And then minus, well, that's going to be 4 times 2 times 3, which is 24, all over 4. Well, now you can see that, all right, that's going to be a negative number, right? So think of that, that's going to be a negative 15. So therefore, we're going to have a complex solution here. So negative 15 all over 4. I can't simplify the radical, but I can go ahead and rewrite this using my imaginary unit I. And then you could distribute the 4 to both of them, but we'll just leave this in that form, but it would be your complex number. For the next two problems, it's basically saying, all right, you have a factor, or you have an expression. Is that going to be a factor of a polynomial? And we have a quadratic and we have a cubic. Now, for the first problem, what I would do is I would just see if it's factorable. And if it's factorable, since it's a quadratic trinomial, I'm like, I can factor this. And if it's factorable with c minus 3 as being a factor, then I know that c minus 3 is a factor, right? And remember, if something is a factor, that means it evenly divides, right? What are the factors of like 8? Well, 8, 1, 2, and 4. Because 8, 1, 2, and 4 all evenly divide into 8. 7 is not a factor of 8. It does not evenly divide into 8. So I can say, all right, well, if c minus 3 is a factor, then what can I multiply c minus 3 by to give me c squared minus 6c minus 5? Well, I know that I would have to get 3 to give 15, I would need to multiply that by a positive 5. And therefore, to get c squared, I'd have a c times a c. Well, those do not add up to a negative 6. So my answer would be no. It does not. C minus 3 does not evenly divide into that. Now, that brings us up to the next question. This one is not very easily factorable, right? Typically you look into this as factoring by grouping, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be using factoring by grouping here. So what you could do, though, is you could actually just use long division. That's something that we did last open Q&A as well. So what I'll do here is I'll set up long division. And as long as my remainder is 0, then I know x minus 0 is a factor of the polynomial via our factor theorem. So I'm going to do is just do my long division. We'll work a little bit quicker on this. X divides into 4x cubed. That's going to be a 4x squared times. 4x squared times x is 4x cubed. 4x squared times negative 2 is a negative 8x squared. Then you go ahead and subtract the rows. We don't have any values here, so you can just think of them as 0. That goes to 0, that goes to 0, and then we're going to be left with a 11x minus 7. So you can just kind of bring these down or subtract them from 0. X goes into 11x. Let's see, a positive 11 times. 11 times x is 11x. And 11 times negative 2 is going to be a negative 22. Now you can go ahead and subtract the rows, but again, when you subtract them, you can see we're going to get a 15. X does not divide into 15, so that is what we call our remainder. So for this problem, no, x minus 2 is not a factor either. So unless I did some work wrong that I'm not seeing my mistake, both of those are not factors of those polynomials. And so the two ways I approached it is one, just by factoring them. So if you have something that's factorable, factor it and see if one of the factors that you have is actually one of the listed factors that you found. If it's non-factorable, or maybe it's a little difficult to factor it, then you can go ahead and use long division or synthetic division and apply the factor theorem. Now, Descartes' rule of signs is, if you just type in my name and Descartes' rule of signs, I have a lot of videos, a lot of different examples. But what Descartes' rule of signs basically tells us is, how many types of zeros that we are going to have for this polynomial. And what I mean by types of zeros are the possible number of real positive, the real negative, as well as complex zeros. So to find the number of positive real zeros, all you're simply going to do is count the number of sign changes minus an even number. And that's where it kind of gets a little bit confusing with students. But again, to kind of keep things simple, the number of positive real zeros is the number of sign changes, which is 3, then minus an even number. So if I minus an even number, the only even number I can subtract from 3 would be 1. So that means there's either 3 or 1 real zero. To use Descartes' rule of signs for the number of negative real zeros, all we're simply going to do here is now plug in f of negative x and then count the number of sign changes. All right. So when we plug in negative x, Now we simplify, that's going to give us a negative 4x cubed. That becomes a positive x squared, so that's a negative 8x squared minus 11x minus 7. Now if we look at the number of sign changes, we see there's no sign changes, right? So that means there are no negative real zeros. So no, or I'll just say 0. Now, and that actually makes sense, because if you look at this factor here, if you would have done Descartes' rule of science first, which probably wouldn't have done, but you would have recognized here x minus 2, if that is a factor, that means x equals 2 is a 0. Never mind, what am I doing? That means it's a positive, so that means it could have actually still been a positive. Never mind, I take that back. I was thinking of it being negative, but it's not. And then the only other thing that you need to understand is the number of complex. So without trying to make this too complicated, remember that the fundamental theorem of algebra says that there's going to be exactly 3 zeros of this polynomial. Well, if we have 3 real positive, then that's good. Then we know we have 3 real positive. But what if we only have 1 real positive? Well, we're not going to have any real negatives, so therefore we have to have 2 complex. So if we had 3 real positives, we would have 0 complex. If we have 1 real positive, we would have 2 complex. And that's how we kind of use Descartes' rule of science, like just really understand the types of zeros we're dealing with. As far as the question number 3, the student I was asking like how to find the graphs of 2 periods, which I'm not going to do because I don't ask my students to go ahead and graph the 2 periods. I just want to see if he came back. He did not. All right. So anyways, but I will just kind of at least, there's a couple things I want you to know. When you're graphing y equals tan of x, the main thing is you need to know the parent graph. Okay, so here's this parent graph with an asymptote at pi halves. Here's this parent graph with an asymptote at negative pi halves. All right, so the graph, this is what we call the initial period, looks like this. And obviously, yes, that graph repeats and definitely going to the right as well as to the left, right? Perfect. Now, if we have y equals 2x, like what is that doing to the graph? Well, that is going to be horizontally compressing the graph. Now, one thing that we talk about for the horizontal compression of our trigonometric functions is the period, right? The period is how long it takes the graph to repeat itself. So the period, remember, is pi divided by b for the tangent function. So in this case, I have pi divided by 2. So the initial period is from negative pi halves to pi halves. Well, now that is a distance of pi. Now the period is being contracted by 1/2, or it's basically being divided by 2, right? So hopefully with a little practice, you would see that now it's only going to go, the first asymptote be at negative pi over 4 to positive pi over 4. But again, that's a little difficult, right? So let's think about maybe where do these asymptotes occur? So the asymptotes of the tangent function, you can see that they are pi away from each other. They start at pi halves, and then if you add pi to it, you're going to get another asymptote. If you add another pi, you get to another asymptote. Or if you subtract a pi, you get to another asymptote. So the asymptotes for the tangent function with no transformation, x equals pi halves, there's one initial pi asymptote, plus pi n, where n represents any integer. Now, if we have a horizontal transformation, all we're simply going to do is take that transformation and set it equal to our asymptote equation. Okay, so now you can see that all we need to do in this case is just divide by 2, and x equals pi over 4 plus pi halves n, which makes sense if you remember what I was talking about. Like now, instead of the asymptote being at pi halves, it's going to be at pi over 4, and it's going to be pi halves n away from each other because that's the new period. So hopefully that at least gets you a good start into graphing the equation. And for the last problem, I will probably just go ahead and have to connect with James regarding that because I'm not sure where his variable was or what we needed to do. But hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, if you are adding a little bit late to the live stream, hopefully this was a benefit to you for answering some of these questions. Did want to send you guys a reminder that I will not be going live tomorrow. I am now back into teaching my classes online. So I'm going live with them every day. So I feel it's now a little bit of a overkill for myself and my computer to be going live every 4 times a day. So I will be going live on Sundays with my open Q&A, as well as doing a office hours for you guys on Wednesdays. So we'll do Sundays and Wednesdays I'll be going live. I still will be uploading some of the content I'm creating for my students on my YouTube channel. And if you guys do have some questions, I did put my Discord link in the description where you guys can go directly there. It's free. Just go to the Discord, and you don't need to be a YouTube member or anything else. However, the YouTube members do have their own kind of section to answer the questions. But yeah, once you go ahead and connect with that, then you can go ahead and post the questions, and I will take whatever questions I can from there. It's a little bit easier than trying to deal with the YouTube chat or live stream chat or the community posts. So if you guys can post your questions there before I go live on this Wednesday, then I'll try to add whatever questions I can do for you guys. And definitely for Sunday night, that I will collect as many questions as possible. So otherwise, guys, this was my first week getting back into the teaching. Hopefully you guys are trying to get into the swing of things, and I look forward to connecting with you guys on Wednesday. If you guys do have some questions, as far as especially teachers or students, as far as really kind of getting into this rhythm, that's what I want to be here for. So that's why I will be going live to answer your questions, but always feel free, guys, to reach out to me directly. Hope you guys have a great tonight and the rest of your week, and I will see you on Wednesday. All right. Peace.